This is SJWs Attack for March the 15th, 2017. The big story today is the Dutch general elections, the first since September of 2012, where everybody was waiting to see whether the Dutch would help put a stop to mass immigration and mass EU government or not. And so far the results seem to be mixed as we get early indications of the election itself. The turnout, they've now announced, is the highest in 31 years, and Ipsos is saying it's about 82% of people who are eligible to vote did vote in the elections today. And a lot of people were speculating that Geert Wilders might see a big rise from the 2012 elections, and that the Netherlands may be moving towards very anti-Muslim sentiments and anti-immigrant policies. It doesn't seem to be so much that people have moved farther to the right, or farther in that regard, but what does seem to have happened is that the left seems to have almost completely collapsed from a couple of strong parties into kind of a splintering across many parties, which is interesting because that seems to have been what happened in the United Kingdom as well, with Britain after Brexit, where the Labour Party just seems in complete disarray. Not just in Brexit, but in the last UK election as well. And that seems to be following here, is that it doesn't seem so much that the right is gaining a lot, like right-wing parties are gaining a lot, but it seems like the left-wing parties are splintering completely into lots of smaller parties. So, for example, when we look at it, if you go down the list of parties from the 2012 elections, you've got the VVD, or the People's Party of Freedom and Democracy, led by Mark Rutte, who had 41 seats. That was the top. Very close was the Labour Party, led by Diederik Samson. They had 38 seats, only 3 seats away. Very close in actual votes, 160,000 people, which is like nothing. Below that was Geert Wilders and the right-wing party, the Party for Freedom, and then the very left-wing party, the Socialist Party, led by Emil Roemer, with the same amount of seats, very close in votes. Then the Christian Democrat Appeal, with 13 seats. They're a right-ish wing party. And the Democrat 66, led by Alexander Pechtold, which is an interesting party. They're kind of a left-wing party with a lot of capitalist, and they almost want to create a United States of Europe, and they just want to be part of those states with huge amounts of money put into education and innovation. So they're an interesting party because they're almost the opposite of what a lot of us think that people are looking for right now in Europe, which is less European intervention. They are very much the let's make a United States of Europe party. So they want more, but they want it almost as they kind of want a united Europe, but not in an EU sense. So they're kind of an interesting party. Christian Union, below that, which is kind of a right-wing party, and then the Green Left, who I'll talk about in a second because they might be one of the most important ones out of this. Reform Political Party, the SGP. It's a Protestant Calvinist political party, which is very weird. Apparently it's also the oldest political party in the Netherlands. This party, that particular party, the RPP, would be considered very right-wing, I would think, because it says the RPP is in Dutch called the SGP party. It says in their platform that they oppose feminism and conclude on biblical grounds that men and women are of equal value but not equal, which is interesting. They also say that men and women have different places in society. So they're they're almost like a patriarchy party, which is kind of interesting. And they literally say they want to restrict males to the head of households. So they're very, very that's an interesting party that actually has votes. But they have 200,000 votes. So in the last election, they had as much as the Green Party. The ones below, very left-wing party, the Party for Animals, which is, as it sounds, almost a PETA party. And then the 50-plus party, which is like the Party for Elderly People. So that's the breakdown for the Dutch parties that had seats after the last election. And this time, after the exit polls, what we're seeing is most parties actually lost seats. So the People's Party of Freedom and Democracy, it looks like, is going to come in at 10 seats lower. But what's even more amazing is the Labour Party, who was just below the strongest left-wing party, got absolutely decimated, and they're showing probably that they're going to be between 6 to 9 seats, which is unbelievable. That's very similar to in Britain the Labour Party getting completely decimated as well. Just below that, you've got Geert Wilders and the Party for Freedom, who have gone up about 4 seats. That's a slight gain, but people were expecting a little bit more. They were expecting he could be more like 23 to 25, and they thought he'd be close to the other right-wing party, the Party for Freedom. But it looks like they're not going to gain as much as they thought. The Socialist Party will be about the same. The Christian Democrat Appeal actually looks like it gained seats from people leaving, probably from people leaving the People's Party of Freedom and Democracy. So it looked like some more people moved to the Christian Democrat Appeal, as they look to be up at around 19 seats as well as D66, which, as I mentioned, is very much the United States of Europe party. So those 3 parties seem to be in second place now. So it would be the Party for Freedom, and then the Christian Democrat Alliance, as well as Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom. So there's the Party for Freedom and Democracy, and then the Party for Freedom, and then the Christian Democrat Appeal. Those 3 right-wing parties seem to be the top 3 parties, along with Democrat 66, who, as I mentioned, are kind of a United States of Europe party. And then the party that had actually gained the most is the Green Party, and the speculation seems to be that most very young people coming into elections for the first time didn't vote Labour like some thought they would, and ended up actually voting for the Green Party. So the Green Party now is actually the biggest left-wing party in the Netherlands, which is interesting. So they'd be ahead of the Socialist Party. They'd be well above the Labour Party now. Just the final thoughts on this is it doesn't look like the Dutch move too much more to the right, maybe a little bit. What it seems like actually happened is the biggest left-wing party just completely collapsed and splintered into other parties, which is very interesting. Again, that's a little bit like what happened in Great Britain, where the left-wing party just didn't seem to have any strength. So what to make of the results? Well, I think a lot of what's happened here is what has happened in Britain as well. I don't really know what this is going to do to politics in the Netherlands. It's going to put more pressure on groups to form a coalition, and I know many had said that they wouldn't form a coalition with Geert Wilders, but Wilders is kind of in a strong place, as it would make sense for the Party for Freedom, the Party for Freedom and Democracy, and the Christian Democrat Appeal to form a coalition government. That would make a lot of sense, and they could do that quite easily. But a lot of the parties have said that they wouldn't form coalition parties with Geert Wilders' party. So I don't know what exactly this is going to do to politics in the Netherlands. A lot of people I've been reading were thinking that there was hope that this would start to lead to a pushback to huge immigration policies, as well as start pushing for more anti-EU pressure in the Netherlands. It doesn't look like that's happening just yet, but this is definitely a shattering of left-wing parties in the Netherlands. So I don't know exactly how to take it. It's an interesting election with another interesting outcome, and I'm very curious to see if the French elections follow something similar to this, where it's not that the country moves more right-wing, it's just that the left parties get completely smashed.